Welcome to SATV News. This is Anaf Hussain with our headlines. Osman Hadi's body arrives in Dhaka. Protests continue across country. Several media outlets vandalized overnight. Attack on two media outlets tantamount to attack on freedom of media, says Chief Advisor. Attack on media outlets, a planned attempt to derail upcoming elections, says Salahuddin Ahmed. Now in details. The body of Sharif Osman Hadi, spokesperson of the Inqilab Mancha, arrived in Dhaka this evening. The plane carrying Osman Hadi's body landed at Hazrat Shah Jalal International Airport. From there, the coffin will be escorted to Dhaka University. The public is urged to gather peacefully and orderly along the route from the airport to Shahbag to pay their final respect to their fallen leader. Following the procession, the body will be taken to the Dhaka University Central Mosque, where people will be able to pay homage. Hadi, an independent candidate for Dhaka 8 constituency, passed away on Thursday night, December 18, while receiving treatment at Singapore General Hospital. Hadi was critically injured when two assailants opened fire on him while traveling on a rickshaw near the box-covered road in Dhaka's Bijaynagar area. Two individuals on a motorcycle approached his rickshaw and one of them shot him from close range before fleeing the scene. Meanwhile, protests are ongoing at Shahbag in the Dhaka over the shooting and killing of Inqilab Mancha spokesperson Sharif Osman Hadi. By 11 a.m. today, students and citizens from various areas had gathered at Shahbag carrying national flags. Meanwhile, protesters have blocked Dhaka Maimansingh Highway in Gazipur Chandana Chaurasta area, demanding exemplary punishment for those involved in the killing of Sharif Osman Hadi. The blockade program was organized under the banner of July 36 Prothagar Gazipur from 2:30 p.m. today. At that time, the protesters took up positions on the highway, halting traffic on both sides of the highway. Earlier, a group of individuals attacked, vandalized and set fire to the offices of the Daily Star and Pratham Alo located in Karan Bazar, Dhaka on the night of Thursday. Floors 1 to 3 of the Daily Star building were severely damaged by fire, with office rooms, furniture and important documents destroyed. Meanwhile, floors 4 to 7 were extensively looted and vandalized, leaving papers, computers, furniture and other materials in complete disarray. In effect, the entire building has been reduced to rubble. Attack on two leading media outlets tantamount to attack on freedom of media. Yunus Bangladesh Interim Government Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus on Friday said that the attack on the country's two leading media houses was tantamount to an attack on freedom of media. The attack of the country's two leading media outlets is tantamount to an attack on free media. This incident has created a major obstacle to the country's democratic progress and the path of independent journalism, he said. The chief advisor made the remarks while speaking over the phone with the editors of Pratham Alo and Daily Star following the attack on the two media outlets on Thursday night, according to a statement from the chief advisor's press wing this afternoon. Expressing deep sympathy to Pratham Alo editor Matiur Rahman and the Daily Star editor Mahfouz Anam, Professor Yunus said, "This unwanted and barbaric attack on your institution and journalist has deeply shocked me. In this difficult time, the government stands beside you." During the phone conversation, he assured the editors of full security for them and their media organizations. Along with all necessary support, The chief advisor also said that he would meet the editors in person very soon. BNP Standing Committee member Salahuddin Ahmed today termed the arson and vandalism at the offices of the Daily Star and Pratham Alo's planned attempt to obstruct the upcoming national election. Speaking to journalists during a view exchange meeting in Gulshan, the senior BNP leader asserted that such acts of sabotage would not succeed in thwarting the country's democratic journey. He also criticized the interim government's failure to prevent the violence, stating that security should have been beefed up at previously identified locations. During the meeting, Salahuddin Ahmed also touched upon the upcoming return of BNP acting chairman Tariq Rahman. He confirmed that the party is coordinating with the governments to ensure security and logistical support for his homecoming. The government is cooperating regarding security matters, Salahuddin said, adding that a reception ceremony for Tariq Rahman is scheduled to take place on 25th December in the capital's 300-feet area. Chief Advisor's Press Secretary Shafiqul Alam has expressed deep regret, stating his inability to help during attack and arson targeting the offices of the Daily Star and Pratham Alo, describing them as one of the country's worst assaults on media outlets. Shafiqul wrote this in a Facebook post this afternoon, around 15 hours after the midnight attack. Expressing anguish, Shafiqul also said he was struggling to find words to console those affected. All I can say is that, as a former journalist, I am sorry. I wish I could dig up a great piece of earth and bury myself in shame, he added. Viewers, we are taking a short break. Stay with us.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900। বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো 80টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka.
Welcome back. You are watching SATV News. News from abroad. US President Donald Trump asserted Thursday he does not need congressional approval to launch strikes on land against Venezuela, despite criticism that he is already exceeding his constitutional authority with attacks at sea. While asked whether he would seek authorization from the US lawmakers to hit drug cartels on land in the Latin American, Trump said he would have no problem doing that, although he cited concerns that politicians leak like a thief. He made these remarks in the Oval Office. The United States has conducted multiple airstrikes since September against alleged drug trafficking boats in the Caribbean and Pacific, causing at least 99 deaths and prompting heated debate about the legality of the operation.
And they leak like a sieve, but I'd have no problem doing that.
On that, Mr. President.
Yes, please. And now.
Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro vowed unity with Colombia on Thursday, calling for regional solidarity in face of US interventionism during a public event in Marineda State, adding that Venezuela would defend Colombia if attacked. Maduro, speaking at the inauguration of a public cable car system, urged the Colombian people and military to join Venezuela's united from invoking the legacy of Simon Bolivar. He condemned recent U.S. actions against a Venezuelan oil shipment as a violation of international lawmaker, pledging to continue exports and defend free trade in the region. The Venezuelan president also called on Americans to reject what he described as warmongering and regime change policies in South America, using the slogan, "No blood for oil."
Capacidad para 8 personas, 8 pasajeros. Bueno, ya es una realidad. El presidente de la República, Nicolás Maduro.
Meanwhile, Colombian President Gustavo Petro on Thursday said that Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro should not have give orders to Colombia's armed forces, rejecting calls for military coordination amid rising tensions with the United States. Petro emphasizing that sovereignty and constituent national power must guide any military cooperation, asserting that Colombian troops remain under Colombia's command and not subject to foreign directions. Petro insisted that military alignment without sovereign consent would violate Colombia's autonomy. He also dismissed claims that he supports dictatorships, saying his stance favors dialogue over confrontation, saying he does not support an invasion.
Dije ayer que era problema de los hombres que siempre nos gusta andar solos por ahí. Le voy a transferir un poco mi experiencia.
China urged the U.S. on Friday to not implement negative China-related provisions laid out in the U.S. defense bill, saying it is strongly dissatisfied and firmly opposed, and has lodged repeatedly representations with Washington. The 2026 National Defense Authorization Act U.S. Senate passed on Wednesday exaggerates the China threat and hurt China's sovereignty, security and development interest, said Guo Jiakun, a Chinese foreign minister spokesperson during a regular press briefing. The U.S. should view its relations with China objectively, Guo suggested, adding that China will take resolute measures to defend itself.
已多次向美方提出严正交涉，坚定捍卫自身主权、安全、发展利益。
European Union leader decided on Friday to borrow cash to fund Ukraine's defense against Russia for the next 2 years rather than use frozen Russian assets, sidestepping diversion over an unprecedented plan to finance Kiev with Russian sovereign cash. A decision to provide 90 billion euros to Ukraine has been approved, confirmed EU Summit Chairman Antonio Costa during a briefing early on Friday morning following hours of talks among the leaders in Brussels. The leaders also gave the European Commission a mandate to keep working on a so-called reparation loan based on Russian immobilized assets, but that option proved unworkable for now. Above all, due to resistance from Belgium, where the bulk of the assets is held.
Back until Moscow ends its aggression.
I have the pleasure to welcome on stage the President of the European Council, Antonio Costa.
In October.
Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin told his annual press conference on Friday that Moscow does not believe Ukraine is ready for peace talks. He said Russia was ready and willing to end the conflict in Ukraine peacefully, based on principles he said he had set out at the Foreign Ministry in 2024. Putin also said that Russian troops have already entered the Hulepyol settlement in the Zaporizhia region of Ukraine. An economic slowdown in Russia this year to 1% growth from 4.3% in 2024 was the result of conscientious action by the central bank to bring down the inflation rate added by Putin. Putin told his annual press conference that as a result of these actions, the inflation rate will slow to between 5.5% and 5.7% in 2025. From 9.5% last year. He said all the armed forces needs could be financed from the state budget.
Пока мы действительно не видим такой готовности. Они и тогда этого не захотели, и по результатам переговоров в Стамбуле сначала согласились практически.
The suspect in the mass shooting at Brown University last weekend is dead, confirmed official on Thursday. As investigators said, he also killed a Massachusetts Institute of Technology professor 2 days after the rampage at Brown. U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts, Leigh Foley, said in a news conference in Boston that federal agents found the gunman identified as Portuguese national Claudio Neves Valente, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound when they breached a storage locker in Salem, New Hampshire. A prosecutor in Boston said investigators are certain that Neves Valente was the person responsible not only for the Brown shooting, but for the Brooklyn shooting, adding that once investigators have some understanding of Valente's motive, it would be shared with the public.
That law enforcement collectively believe that we have the person, that we identified the person, and that person is dead.
The signing of a trade deal between the EU and South American bloc Mercosur was pushed back to January after Friday, after farmers staged a show force against the pact outside a Brussels leader summit. Mercosur's nations were notified of the delay by the European Commission after EU plans to seal the pact this week were upended by heavyweights France and Italy. The EU-Mercosur deal would create the world's biggest free trade area and help the 27-nation bloc to export more vehicles, machineries, wines and spirits to Latin America at the same time of global trade tensions. Thousands of farmers flooded the Belgian capital Thursday, rolling around 1,000 honking tractors into the city as the deal loomed large over the European leaders' gathering. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva on Thursday said he will veto a bill passed by the country's Congress to cut former President Jair Bolsonaro's 27-year prison sentence for plotting a coup. Brazil's Senate on Wednesday voted to approve the bill, which was passed by the country's lower house last week after Bolsonaro began serving his sentence in November for plotting a coup against Lula after losing the 2022 election. The bill also establishes sentence reductions for those convicted for their roles in a January 2023 riot, when Bolsonaro supporters invaded and ransacked the presidential palace, Supreme Court and Congress. Last month, Bolsonaro began serving his sentence for plotting a coup against Lula after losing the 2022 election.
E tem gente que quer que a gente esqueça, mas a gente não pode esquecer.
7 people died on Thursday following the crash of Cessna 550 jet in Statesville, North Carolina, including former NASCAR driver Greg Biffle. The plane crashed at the Statesville Regional Airport in North Carolina. The North Carolina Highway Patrol said it is believed that Biffle and members of his immediate family were among those killed. And because of severe post-crash fire, a formal confirmation has not been completed. The plane had been found for Florida, but soon after takeoff attempted to return to the North Carolina airport in severe weather around 10:15 a.m. Biffle won 19 Cup Series races over 20 years. His final race on the circuit was the 2022 Jayco 500 at Talladega. He was named one of NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers in 2023. Before ending, we go through the headlines again. Osman Hadi's body arrives in Dhaka. Protests continue across country. Several media outlets vandalized overnight. Attack on 2 media outlets tantamount to attack on freedom of media, says Chief Advisor. Attack on media outlets, a planned attempt to derail upcoming elections, says Salahuddin Ahmed. You're up to date with our top stories so far here on SATV, and to know the latest news, visit www.satv.tv. Stay with us.